5 or 6 years ago, both Mayweather and Pacquiao were probably better than they are now. They didn't have as many miles on them. Manny Pacquiao since then has been knocked out pretty dramatically. They're not probably the fighters they were then. But, there are also precedents in boxing history. One of the most famous fights in the history of boxing, the Thrill in Manila, Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier. Both those guys were supposed to be over the hill going into that fight, especially Joe Frazier. And it's remembered as one of the real true fights for the ages. So it's kind of where they are relative to each other. And this could still work out just fine. And
how would you compare the hype for this fight versus that one, for example, the Ali fight that you mentioned?
Well, it's different. I'm not going to pretend it's not different. I've been doing these I'm old. I've been doing these for about 30 years now. So I've been to a lot of big fights with Tyson and Oscar De La Hoya and Lennox Lewis and all those people. This fight kind of stands by itself. Boxing right now is not really in the general conversation, but this fight is. So the hype is there. Certainly the hype is there. I think people almost want it to be like the old days, want it to be a big fight, and they're kind of wishing it to be that kind of an event. But, it's kind of detached really from boxing in a way that, the linear part of boxing, in a way that those fights weren't. They were part of a continuum. This one kind of stands by itself, and it might be the end of the line.
Stephen, I've been talking to people who never talk about boxing, and now they're saying, who are you going with, Mayweather or Pacquiao? It's not a conversation I would normally have. Do you think this is doing something to revitalize that conversation around boxing?
I think it is for the moment, and I think you're right that this, the true test of a big fight is whether you can have that conversation with people who would never watch a fight. That's definitely part of it. Everybody's got an opinion about this when everyone knows it's happening. But the kind of spillover effects beyond this, there are lots of great fighters, and boxing is alive. Boxing fans will tell you that. But in terms of superstars, these guys are it. And we're near the end of the road for both of them. So I think it's a real open question whether this spurs on a revival in boxing interest. It may just be a one-off. That may be all it is.
They're within 1 pound of each other, 145, 146. Have you got a favorite?
Well, I've always thought Floyd Mayweather would win this fight, and I would have said the same thing 5 or 6 years ago. Manny Pacquiao, they're the same weight now. Manny Pacquiao is naturally a much smaller guy. He came up for 106 pounds. That's where he started 20 years ago. So I think Floyd has that advantage. Floyd's a great technical fighter. If Pacquiao can make Floyd Mayweather uncomfortable, we'll have an interesting night here tonight, and maybe we'll have a classic. But I would have thought when Pacquiao was better 5 years ago, I still thought Mayweather would beat him, and I think Mayweather will beat him now.